what you're going to first need to do is get hold of your flower paste. Now, flower paste is a specialist product, and you should probably buy that rather than try and make it yourself. It's fairly common, so just going to your local sugar paste or sugar supply store, and they'll be able to suggest which one to go for. I'm just softening it down to make sure that it's fairly pliable, just making sure that it's well worked and it's soft. You will find with flour paste that it's kind of stretchy and springy, and it should be, because you're going to have to thin this down quite well. So just make sure that it's really well kneaded before you start working with it. And then once I've kneaded it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to roll this out. But I think first what I'm going to do is pop a little bit of corn flour. This is just my little corn flour pouncer, and I'm just going to start to gently roll this out. Now, we are going to go quite thin on this, and I'm going to start it off on my roller here, but I am going to take it over to the pasta machine in a minute, and I take it down to about a 5 or a 6. But essentially the thickness you're looking for is something that if you placed it over a printed sheet, you'll be able to kind of see the print through it. Okay, so what I've done is I've just rolled that through the pasta machine a few times just to thin it well down, and as you can see, I've got a nice kind of thin sheet of sugar paste here. I've got a few little markings in the sheet itself, so what I'm going to do is just take that and re-roll it just to get rid of any of those marks and bits and pieces. So there we go, we've rolled that nice and thin, and we're going to just lift this up. Oh, a little bit of a stick there, that's fine. We're not going to need all of this sheet, so I'm just going to cut that down just on the edge here, because that will be plenty for what I'm doing. I'm cutting out 3 lots of petals, which will be fine for this round. You won't need very much more than that, I wouldn't imagine, but if you want to do a bigger rose, you just need to add more petals. So I'll explain that a little bit later on. So here's a 5-petal rose cutter, and I'm just going to cut out 3 sets of the petals. So cut the first set out, give it a nice scrape on the surface, and then just go around the edge with your finger just to clean up any edges that might be a little bit rough there. Just make sure everything's nice and smooth. Give it a little tap to come out. If it doesn't come out, like this one's not going to, just grab yourself a little pin tool and then peel away 1 petal, and the rest of them should just then pop out of the cutter. If you are finding it particularly sticky, just give the cutter a little pounce with some corn flour, and that should stop the sticking too much. So there we go, there's number 2. Just do all the edges on that one as well, lift that one out, and then we'll just get 1 more cut out in a second, and we'll cut number 3 out there. Perfect, so we'll just get that one out, smooth all the edges down, and lift it out. There we go. So we'll get that, and whilst we're just waiting, I'll get the excess re-kneaded a little bit, and we'll pop that back into the pot to stop it drying out. So whenever you're working with flour paste, just make sure that any excess goes into a plastic bag or a Tupperware pot or something, just to stop it drying out. You don't want it in the air, otherwise it is going to start to crack, and working with it will become difficult. So I've got a little plastic folder here. Now, this is just a standard plastic folder you would have for putting paper in, but it works very well as a keeper for your petals, just to stop these drying out whilst you're working with one. So I'm going to pop those into there, and then just pop them over to one side here and get ready with the next bit. So now we've got our petals out, I've got a little ball of either sugar paste or flour paste. I tend to use sugar paste on this bit, but you can use flour paste as well. And again, I'm just going to knead this up, and we're actually going to create a cone, and this is going to be the centre of the rose. So I'm just going to smooth this down and roll it into a ball using my hands, and then, as you can see, just a ball there. And then what I'll do is very gently, I'm going to just pinch it using my finger and thumb into a cone shape. Okay, now what you should notice is that cone is equivalent to the height of one of the petals. So in order to get the cone the right size, you're looking to make your cone the equivalent of the height of one of the petals there. So once we've got that, we can start working on our petals. So I'm going to move that over to the side, bring in my firm foam mat. Now these are the small ones I've got, but the white ones work as well. I've got a ball tool to work these as well. So take your first petal, lay it onto your foam mat, and then what you're going to do is, using a fairly large ball tool, is just thin the edges of your petals down. Okay, we're not going too firm, we're just going firm enough just to start to thin out those edges, and you should just be able to see them start to curl and curve ever so slightly. Once we've done that, we're then going to come into the middle of the petal, and using a gentle pressure, just use a circular motion to widen the petal a little bit. We're not looking for length at this point, we're just looking to widen the petal. So a little bit of pressure on the inside, and then I've got a slightly smaller ball tool, and I'm going to go around the edges again and just thin those edges down a little bit more. So we are looking for a very paper thin edge, and this is what's going to give you that natural looking finish. So I'm just going to finish this one off, get all those edges done. Last one here, and there we go. So I've got some nice feathery thin looking edges. It's going to look very, very pretty, that one. Okay, so once I've done that, I'm going to bring in a slightly thicker but softer foam pad. You can see how nice and soft that is, and I'm going to transfer the first set of petals onto that one, and again using a big ball tool, I'm just going to gently push that into the soft foam, and it's going to cup the petals, so you're getting just a very gentle soft cup of the rose petal and then into the center. So you can see I've got a fairly shaped rose there. So in we come with my center. I've got a little bit of sugar glue here. If I get a little bit of time later on, I'll tell you how we make that, but it's very, very simple. Little paintbrush just for painting the sugar glue onto the petals. So we'll pop that down there, and then there is a way of working with these petals. So the first thing I'm going to do is paint the top petal. So if you work with the petals facing you as you can see it in the video rather than the way it looks to me, you paint the top petal, skip a petal, and then paint the next petal, and these are going to create the first two very, very tight curls for your rose. Okay, so take your cone center and place it slap bang in the middle of there, just like that. Okay, then the petal that is essentially at your 12 o'clock that you can see right at the top there, you're going to lift that one up, pull it ever so slightly so it comes up over the top of the cone, and then what you're going to do is you're going to wrap the edge of that. Let me come in a little bit closer here. You're going to start to wrap the very top of that round into a very, very tight little cone, and hopefully you can see that it's just wrapping around right into the very, very top. Try and get it into focus there. So you can see that's a very tight little cone there. You shouldn't be able to see the cone underneath. And then what you're going to do is opposite, you're going to take the other petal and you're going to wrap that around as well. Just give the end a little bit of shape, but not too much. Use a cocktail stick for that. I happen to have a very small ball tool, but a cocktail stick will work absolutely fine. And that's your first round of petals done. And then you're just going to split those bottom two petals so they are all equidistant around the center there. Take your sugar glue and again just paint your sugar glue onto those petals. Try not to bring it up to the top at this point, just leave a little gap at the top that doesn't have any glue on it. So there you have got a nice layer of glue on them. And then what we do is we start with one, doesn't matter which one you start with, but pull that up. Just stick one edge down, but make sure the other edge sticks out. Then pull your next petal up, and you can stick both edges of that one down. Okay, the third petal, I'm just going to tweak that there just to get a nice look. Probably going to fiddle with this quite a lot, so don't worry. So the third petal comes up, and again you're going to stick one over the one you've got, but it's going to sit under that one we left sticking out. Okay, just in there you can see, and then we bring that petal. So you're getting an over, under, over, under, over, under, and all the petals flow over one another very, very nicely. Okay, and then we're just going to have a little play to make sure that we get all of our petals in the right place and it looks neat and tidy. Ooh, completely out of the screen there. I do apologise. I'm going to bring that through in a second so you can just see it. So you can just see I've shaped the petals a little bit for you. So now what we've got is our firm pad again. I'm going to take another set of petals and we're going to do exactly the same thing this time as we've done before. So using our large ball tool, we're just going to thin down the edges of all of the petals. So you can just see I'm going to thin down each one of those in turn. And again, we're going to work on the width of the petal and not the length. So we're just thinning out the centre of the petals a little bit, giving a little bit of a cup. Then with a slightly smaller ball tool, go around the edge again and give it a slight ruffle, but not quite as heavily as you did beforehand, just to give it a little bit of shape. So once we've done that, you're then going to find that we change things up a little bit here. So using a palette knife or your fingers or whatever's easiest, just flip that over. And you're going to need your cocktail stick for this little bit. And what we're going to do is just roll the edges of the petals back. So you can see that we're creating kind of a point towards the centre of the top of the petal and just rolling those edges back over onto themselves. So again, cocktail stick in and roll it back ever so slightly. And then we're going to roll this side in again and roll that into the middle. So you can see we did that on every single one. And the more you do it, the more practiced you get at it, and the better it'll be. But you are looking for a fairly tight roll on this point. Some people will struggle with it, and if you're finding it a struggle, you can just roll one side. But I do think that the two rolls make it look a lot more natural, just kind of like a vintage Old English rose, which is always very, very lovely. So we've got our last little bit to go here, and we've just rolling this edge, and missed that bit, so grab that bit again. So you can see I've kind of rolled those, and you can always tweak things as you're going around, bearing in mind that this is just straight flower paste, so I don't have a lot of work time, but I have enough. So we flip that back over, and we put it onto our slightly softer mat this time, our thicker, softer mat. Get that into the middle. And again, as we did before, we are just going to cup all of these petals now, and you can just see how that rolling of the edges of the petals has made them a lot more kind of open, a lot more kind of just very, very beautiful. So we do that and the middle a little bit there, and then we're going to get this onto the table here, and we'll bring in our centre. But I'm just going to glue up all of the petals, and again try and leave the top section of the petals free of glue. It's going to give you a little bit more control over being able to play around with the ends of these and get it looking really, really pretty at the end of the day. So again, a bit of glue on each one. There we go. So just popping all of those in there. Bring the centre back through now. And that goes into the middle of this second set of petals. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bring our first petal up, and again stick one side down. So I'll turn it so you can see it there, and then leave one side sticking out. Okay, and then on the side that you've stuck down, move in that direction, bring the next petal up and stick that fully down, and then the next petal up and stick that fully down, and the next petal up and stick that one fully down. And you can see how the pattern goes on these ones. It's very, very simple. On the last petal you bring up, just pull back that first one a little bit. So you're going to go over that petal on the one side and tuck it underneath the other petal, and then bring that first petal over the top. So again, you've got the under, over, under, over, under, over happening. So you should be able to see that. And then all I'm going to do here is just very gently press in the side in one side and leave one side kind of a little more open, so it should kind of spiral outwards and just look very, very pretty. So just trying to get that last little bit in there. There we go. So you can see there how open that looks, and it's really starting to look like a rose, and we've put 2 rows of petals on. So stand up. There we go. So that's that one. Right, so we're on to our final set of petals, and it's exactly the same process: thinning the edges, widening the petals, thinning a little bit more, flipping over, curling the edges in, and then we're going to put our centre in and get these new petals on. So again, just do it in your own speed, bearing in mind that your flower paste is only going to give you a small amount of time to work with. So just try and work as quickly and efficiently as you can, because the more time you work with this, the more likelihood it's going to be that you're actually going to crack it. So just be aware of that. So here we go, doing the edges. And what we might do is just forward through this and get to where we're putting the last set of petals on. So what we've done there is just got everything together, and we're just going to glue this up now in preparation for the final gluing. So a bit of glue on all of the petals, again avoiding that very top section, just to make sure that you've got something you can work with a little bit later on. We're going to bring the centre in now, just pop that into the middle, and then what we're trying to do is we're trying to line up a seam where two petals cross into the centre of one petal. It's going to make it look a little bit more natural, and it's going to make it look a lot more pretty. So again, one goes up and leave the edge, and then bring up each of the other ones, sticking one over the one before it and under the one following it. So you're getting an over, under, over, under, over, under. That last one, you pull the first petal out, bring that last petal in and pull the first petal over the edge there. And that's basically your rose done. We're going to do a little bit of tidying up and just getting some bits and pieces, so it looks really pretty. And at this stage you can kind of just fiddle with it until it looks absolutely how you want it. So whilst I just get that sorted, I'll just say it'd be great if people would subscribe to the channel. What we're going to do is bring through a lot of tutorials. So if you subscribe to the channel, let us know whether you liked it and if there's anything you'd like to see, and hopefully we can do a lot more for you. So thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you soon.